So Diane Neal, Jack's mother, was a secret agent whose job was to get rid of Yujiro Hanma during Vietnam battle. And when Yujiro discovered that Diane was trying to outsmart him, he decided to take revenge on her and rape Diane. That's how Jack was born, and Jack's mom decided to keep the kid. Unlike his half-brother Baki Hanma, Jack has since childhood wished to surpass his father Yujiro Hanma in strength and martial ability, to get revenge, rather than earning his love and respect. So the first thing that comes to the minds of his fans is that if Jack Hanma is a pure-blood Hanma or not. So basically, one of the things that Yujiro Hanma hated about Jack was that he was weak and didn't have the same potential as Baki. Even though Jack needed to resort to artificial means to become stronger, Yujiro knew he was weaker than Baki because he thought his blood was impure. The fact that Jack didn't have pure blood came straight out of Yujiro's mouth. In that regard, his own father thought that Jack didn't have blood that was pure enough for him to gain the power and strength of the Hanma family. Of course, we really don't know what Yujiro meant when he said that Jack's blood was impure, considering that Baki's mother wasn't even a Hanma as well. It is possible that Yujiro was referring to the fact that Jack wasn't Japanese, as Baki's mother was Japanese. Jack may also be impure, because he was a mistake that Yujiro never meant to create, as he impregnated Jack's mother out of spite and rage instead of lust. What happened was that Yujiro became companions with Jack's mother during his time in Vietnam. However, Yujiro eventually discovered that Diane was actually a Canadian spy trying to lure him into a trap so that the UN soldiers could kill him. So after discovering her true identity, Yujiro raped Diane out of anger due to her betrayal. But the things that Yujiro said about Jack are not entirely true, because the effects of Hanma blood can be clearly seen on Jack. So Jack's obsession to defeat his hated father led to extreme overtraining at various fighting gyms, which led to the deterioration of the muscles in his body. He wasn't much more than skin and bones, because his body had been damaged by overwork. For example, Jack would punch sandbags for over 12 hours without eating, resting, or even using the restroom, and would lift weights until his body refused to do anymore. Jack did this kind of training because he claimed he will never be able to defeat his father with normal training. Then, after his encounter with the Yujiro-inspired scientist named Dr. John, who witnessed Yujiro killing a polar bear, the scientist promised him great results if Jack tries using a special drug which he called X4. So the scientist gave Jack steroids to match his overtraining and gained immense power in the process. Though in the process, Jack had become addicted to the drugs and began overdosing, which left him even more mentally unstable. At first, the doctor was happy with Jack's results, but at one point he tells Jack that he's really starting to overdo completely. But still, the doctor finally agreed to give Jack as much drugs as he wanted. Then soon, Jack became powerful enough to kill a polar bear with his bare hands. But because of his unstable mindset, he was more brutal and made the bear's death agonizing. So then Jack fought in the Maximum Tournament, but there he was defeated by Baki in the finals, and because of his drugs overdose, his body got deformed. But then, after the Maximum Tournament, Jack has Kureha Shinogi perform surgery to lengthen his bones where multiple of his bones were broken, and he had his limbs lengthened in 8 places. After the surgery, Jack is then first seen by Caillou Retsu in a restaurant where Jack orders an entire roasted pig for himself and eats it in 10 seconds, even though Retsu is at first unaware that it's Jack and judges his height, saying it could be more than 210 centimeters. Jack then stands up and walks up to Retsu and says that he just remembered who Retsu was and that he saw him in the underground arena and at the Maximum Tournament. This shocks Retsu and makes him realize that it's Jack, and he afterwards wonders on how Jack managed to gain 20 centimeters. So Jack was 6'4" the last time they met, meaning that Jack is 6'11" at this point in the series. Jack silently walks away with Retsu looking at him, who is still wondering on how Jack grew so much in less than a year. Becky fans also wonder if Jack has a demon back or not, and whether he is going to awaken his D-demon back in future. So that said, the storyline made clear that Jack Hanma didn't have the same power and capabilities as the other Hanma family members. In short, he wasn't born with the ability to use the famed demon face back that the Hanma family members had, and this was most likely due to him being impure in the eyes of Yujiro. Of course, there's also a chance that Jack doesn't have the demon back because he failed to develop it when he became so frail and skinny during his younger years. His poor health may have contributed to this, as we all know that he overtrained during his younger years to try to surpass his father. This was detrimental to him instead of beneficial, as we all know that Jack's body became weak and frail, and this might have made it impossible for him to develop the demon back. But Yujiro also once said that Jack simply didn't have the luck of the devil when he was born. Of course, we don't really know what he meant by that, But the fact is that he believes that Baki was born with the luck of the devil, unlike Jack, who was born as an unlucky young man due to the circumstances surrounding his birth. But despite not having the demon back, Jack is one of the strongest characters in Baki, and his strength is shown many times in the story. He killed a polar bear with his bare fists, in the same way his father did. He defeated the convict Sikorsky with a punch so strong that he lifted the telephone box they were in, and later he withstood Sikorsky's knuckle slash in the underground arena. He took many blows from Muhammad Ali Jr. and defeated him, and ended up cutting Ali's tongue in the process. He also fought Pickle despite the strength difference, and made him run away in fear by causing him to view him as the only creature that scares him. His body is strong enough to surpass drugs, even though he used abnormal amounts of them. Due to his super steroids, Jack had a tendency to fight like a rabid animal, and has severe determination to finish fights through to the end, which proves this even further. His great determination and ferocity in battle allow Jack to continue fighting even after suffering serious injuries, such as when he broke his right arm in the fight against Baki, and when he had part of his face ripped off by Pickle. One of his main techniques is biting, and his biting force is equal to that of a crocodile, which is hard enough to easily crush wood with his teeth. Jack even ate a whole roasted pig in 10 seconds, and chew on the bones of a T-bone steak like it was a biscuit. It was all thanks to the amazing power of his teeth. His bite is strong enough to damage Izuma Tobi when he wears chainmail made of aramid fibers, although he did lose all of his teeth in the process. After creating the Gudu technique, Jack perfected the strength of his bite, being able to sustain his huge body on a tree just by biting a towel that was tied to it. He was also able to lift huge weights for a long time with just the strength of his jaw. Despite using brute force to fight, Jack is a very tactical fighter, and is smart enough to counter and outmaneuver his opponents. For example, he made Chiharu Shiba pass out with a special type of hold, where Jack presses 2 fingers on the gang leader's vital points that are located in the throat, and also when he found the weakness of Aiki after being thrown many times and used a similar move to defeat Guki Shibukawa. During his fight with Pickle, Jack tried to strike his middle fingers into Pickle's ears, piercing his brain. He used this as a last-ditch attack because he was about to be knocked out, and used his fighting spirit to activate this technique. This move may have possibly killed Pickle if the massive caveman hadn't managed to sense Jack's upcoming attack. Ever since his loss against Matobe's ancient Kenjutsu, Jack made major improvements to strengthen his bites. After Izuma Tobe shattered all his teeth, he had them replaced with titanium dentures. Since biting is Jack's signature technique, it has become his martial pursuit, and have devoted himself to it. Traveling around the world, Jack has finally completed his technique in Taiwan, and mastered his skill. He calls it Gudu, the way of biting. He also had a full set of artificial titanium teeth surgically implanted in his mouth, since he lost all of his original teeth during his fight with Motobe. From the results of his Gudu, Jack is capable of forming a 500 yen coin in a triangle-like shape by using his artificial teeth. His sight has improved to the point that he is able to see countless major and minor blood vessels. Similar to X-ray vision, Jack himself has stated that his Gudu sees all animals and all humans as nothing more than dense clumps of vital points. With Gudu, Jack can bite and tear off opponents' body parts in moments before they know it, making them bleed a lot. He can also counterattack any strike aimed at his face with a quick and hard bite. He even managed to rip off the little finger of Nomi no Sukune II when he hit him in the face, and tear his heel when the sumo wrestler kicked him in the jaw, causing him to lose a lot of blood from his injuries. After a tough fight, Jack managed to defeat Sukuna, who has a grip strength superior to even Yujiro, and was recognized as one of the strongest characters in the series, with no particularly huge injuries. So basically, Jack's driving force is wanting to defeat his father in order to avenge his mother, who was raped by him. After taking super steroids that made himself beyond unstable, Jack turned into a monster without balance, who only cares about becoming stronger to take revenge. Jack is an incredibly determined and stubborn person. He just doesn't know when to quit. His overtraining would be suicidal, if not for the scientist's steroid cocktails being part of his regimen. He's had his skeleton surgically restructured multiple times to get bigger. He even had half his face bitten off by Pickle and woke up in the hospital twice, the second time from a severe coma, but he still gets up and goes right back to it. Also, it can be said that he is sometimes too confident in his strength. He trains too much for his body to handle, forcing him to resort to steroids and other medical methods in order to keep his strength growing steadily. He is too obsessed with beating Yujiro and avenging his mother, to the point where he is blinded by that dream. For a very long time, he didn't know many fighting techniques and often fought head-on with his opponents. He refused to hold back against any of his opponents, and speaking of behavior, he prefers to act like a wild animal rather than a true fighter. has especially shown how he bites his opponents during their fights, making him even more animalistic. Jack can indeed seem very frightening to his enemies. For example, he startled Pickle after Jack lost to him. He almost out-savaged Pickle during their fight, and the caveman got scared of Jack. Because there was nothing in the wild that prepared the caveman for the sight of a prey seemingly coming back from the dead for a rematch. So I'm personally waiting for a rematch of Jack with Baki and Yujiro, and make sure to tell me in the comments if you guys think that Jack will be able to beat Yujiro in the near future.